Q&A portion kami. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cardinal. A couple of reminders lang. Be aware of which commissioner is involved in the questions that you ask and direct the question to him. Not just be specific about who you want to answer the question. And also, you will be entitled to one question and then a follow-up because given how many of us in the room, we try to be to make this manageable. But after this, you will have an opportunity to to talk to the commissioners themselves and ask for more questions. So, okay, first question, Jairo from Rapper.
Good morning po. Jairo from Rappler. Anyone po from the commission can answer po. Former Judge Marano po. You mentioned po na the goal is to issue periodics para containing po the testimonies. May end goal din po ba tayo na nagiging po for possible things built out for practical uses po sa local prosecution because other actors, other human rights advocacies, advocates are saying that there should be reverse complementarity in the Philippines. We have big actors in the ICC facing their cases, whereas in the local, wala po tayo masyado for the matters, for the captains, etc. So, magagamit po ba ito for legal purposes, for case law?
Jairo. Well, Jairo, I'm impressed. You have done your homework on reverse complementarity. Thank you very much. Well, Jairo, we will issue our report, and we will furnish. We will make sure that responsible government agencies will receive our report. If they find material in the testimony that can advance their own investigations, for me that will be a most welcome development. But we are a truth commission, and the prosecutorial function is of course governmental, and as the Cardinal mentioned, we are an initiative of the Church and the civil society, and therefore we don't have that power. But yes, our output hopefully will be useful for both national and international bodies who are involved in looking at the law.
Just a follow-up po, just last follow-up po. Yung main question po siguro ng mga journalists ay saan po kaya magaling if ever yung funding po po ating commission? Will we get support from civil society organizations? Will the government President Marcos in Cardinal?
Yeah, bigyan kita ng kaunting background na hindi ko pa ito pino-open up sa mga kasamahan ko sa commission. Alam niyo, bago ko naging obispo ng Diocese of Caloocan, I was auxiliary bishop sa Pampanga, and back then, in-appoint ako ng Yumaong Pope Benedict XVI as titular bishop of Guardia Fiera. Alam niyo, yung mga titular dioceses na yan, usually non-existent na yan. Mga ano lang ba, honorific titles na binibigay sa mga obispong wala akong sariling diocese. But I discovered na yung binigay niya sa akin is still existing, but has been reduced from a diocese to a parish in Italy. At inibita ako doon. And nung dumalaw ako doon, one of the most striking parts ng pagdalaw ko doon ay dinala ako sa crypt ng cathedral. And in the crypt of the cathedral is a memorial museum in honor of my predecessor bishop, Bishop Jose Conedera Girardi of Guatemala, who led the Truth Commission about the killings perpetrated in Guatemala. Parang nakakapangilapot. And so I kept that because I kept that in my memory. And yung nung pinatay, and the bishop completed his work, led the Truth Commission, and 2 weeks after they submitted the report, he was murdered. And 300 people from the titular diocese of Guardia Fiera flew all the way to Guatemala to attend the funeral and to ask for bloody cassocks of the old bishop who was murdered. And you know, years later, I would become bishop of the Diocese of Caloocan. And my people there, when they heard that I was receiving death threats, and I had to face criminal charges because of my defense of human rights, they pleaded with me and said, please, we don't want another martyr. And he said, of course, I don't have an ambition to become a martyr. Sabi ko, just please pray for us. And one day, I found myself in Luxembourg. And I was in the company of the president of the biggest charitable institution in Germany that funded the Truth Commission of Guatemala. And he said, we read news that you are interested to put up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in your country. Please be assured of our support in case you will need it. Kaya po, naglakas loob kami because malakas ang suporta ng academy, civil society, church groups, not only Catholics, even non-Catholics, Protestants, in this endeavor para sa pagbabangon ng dangal ng ating bayan. So, yun po ang aking sinasabi. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Father Luis Miguel from the Philippine Catholic Asian News. My first question is addressed to Cardinal Amor David and to other members of the Commission right now to answer. Reading your press release and listening to you, it seems that there is little to no space for Duterte government officials to tell their own story. And just to anticipate criticisms that might be lodged against you, how can we say that this commission is after the truth when it seems to be one-sided? That's my first question.
Yeah. If you say truth, that it seems to be one-sided, syempre, we are on the side of victims. That is to be expected. Kasi sila yung dehado. Isa yan sa mga basic moral principles of the church. Yeah. I know that from the perspective of a judge, nakapiring ang katarungan. Di ba? Lady judge is blindfolded. Now, the church is not blindfolded. We remove our blinders precisely because our preferential option is for the most disadvantaged in society. Alam natin na hindi patas ang ating lipunan. And I saw this sa isang kasong nangyari sa ating diocese, itong kinasuhan ng illegal gambling, na hindi naman talaga illegal gambling. At it broke my heart when I asked him, ba't ka umamin? At ang sagot niya ay, may choice po ba kaming maniliman? Sa tingin nila, wala silang kalaban-laban sa batas. And for me, may kwento lang nila, ang kanilang kwento, malaking bagay nila. Yun lang. Kahit dun lang, malaking bagay nila. Of course, welcome din magkwento ang iba na mayroong ibang pananaw tungkol sa mga pangyayari. But ang pagpatay ay pagpatay. And I don't know kung saan sa batas ang nagsabi na ilista mo lang sa isang drug watch list ng tao, pwede na siyang patayin. Kahit totoo kung sakasakali na may involvement sa droga ang sino man sa mga Kristiyano, may batas tayo. And kapag nangyari na isinantabi na natin ang batas at nag-shortcut na tayo at tinolerate natin ang impunity, it's the end of the rule of law. Hindi na tayo magiging isang bansang tunay na democratic at normal. Kaya this is also meant to rehabilitate our institutions na masira ang credibility. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Just a quick, if I may add to that. I mean, this is not to say that the commission will close its eyes for years to those from the administration of Mr. Duterte who may want to tell their story. But they are not, at least as the Cardinal has said, we are more inclined to listen first to those who were victimized by the drug war. And in fact, one of the things that we intend to do is reach out to members of the police force, law enforcement agency, who may have, stories to tell as well, and who may wish to come forward and, tell us what they knew about the campaign. I mean, this is not some sort of an inquisition against the Dutertes. This is a fact-finding, truth-seeking commission. And we are, the central objective here, basically, is to bring dignity back to the victims of the drug war. And we will do that without jeopardizing the rights, of course, of who may be perpetrator and who may feel aggrieved by all of these proceedings. Of course, they will be heard as well, but our priority are the victims, the survivors of the drug war.
And if I may add, in the telling of stories or lived experiences, the Commission is also open to the possibility that some of the victims or survivors may actually request for a face-to-face meeting with the other. And that requires preparation as well. That's why part of the psychosocial intervention vis-a-vis trauma healing is the briefing. We have to hold briefings, not just to prepare them, but also to remind them of the possible scenarios. Because healing means different things to different people. Some people, their healing may require them to confront the other, but the other may not be ready at that point. And so we cannot just bring them together, when one party or one of the actors involved is not ready. And so that is part of the ongoing process. We are also open to the possibility that the former perpetrator may actually request to also have a face-to-face meeting, with the people they've hurt at one point. And so we will also find ways to address that in this commission. If they prefer to just tell their stories by themselves without the persons together, so be it. Actually, this is part of how the truth telling also becomes healing, because we are not just after getting the stories per se, but how the stories are also being facilitated, how the stories are also being told, and that requires this setup as well. And so we will handle these stories and the different storytellers, on a case-to-case basis as a group, but we are open to this format as well, if there is a need.
My second question is
To add something. Well, I just want to add to what my colleagues have said. Of course, their responses pertain to the choice of movie pieces in here. But I think, again, what we can assure you is that when we receive the evidence, we will evaluate the testimony independently, neutrally. It's not like we're inclined to believe only one side. We want to know what really happened. And if the testimony is not believable, we will not record. But for us, the task is to be neutral judges of the truth or falsity of the testimony.
My second question is addressed to Judge Pangalanan and other members of the Commission. A while ago, Cardinal David spoke much about your credentials as members of the Commission. Now, I'd like to ask about Cardinal David. Why is it important for the Commission to have Cardinal David in particular as advisor? And why is it important that the Catholic Church in general is supporting this initiative? Judge Pangalanan. other members?
I'll take the first crack at the question, okay, and then look, the first case that moved forward was the case of Kian. Kian de los Santos. Do you think the case would have moved forward without witnesses? Do you think that case, the witnesses would have been available without the help that they got from Archdiocese? I'm not familiar with this church things. The Diocese of Caloocan. You know, my point is, we can speak of cases, legal cases moving forward. But what we should also realize is that that case would not have moved forward without the facts. Facts derived from witnesses. And witnesses who have to be encouraged, who have to be emboldened to speak forward. And that wouldn't have been possible without the help of the church. And I can tell you, this is not the first time that I'm working with witnesses who have been given sanctuary by the church. Let's face it, in the Philippines, there's nothing like the network of support available from the Catholic Church. The facilities are all over the country. At that time, we were looking for a safe place for some witnesses. And if you want to find them, there's nothing like finding a network of seminaries. Yes. So it's that. For me, looking at it from a practical standpoint. But I'm pretty sure my colleagues in the parliament would like to have some people thoughts on that.
May pinakinggan kami isang testimony at sinabi niya, nung panahon yun, wala kaming matakbuhan kahit simbahan. And that broke my heart. Kahit daw simbahan, hindi nila matakbuhan. So, this is partly mea culpa also. It's not true that the church has always been really involved in establishing the truth or even in giving sanctuary. It took a while, ako mismo, because I gave the benefit of the doubt, may sincerity and goodwill about the tukang. Kasi, aminado din naman kami, talagang problema ng droga sa aming mga pamayanan sa Caloocan. At talagang gusto namin masugpo ang droga. But when we were seeing the dead bodies piling up, and mostly dirt poor people who could not even afford the decent burial, talagang unti-unting nagbago yung pananaw ko mismo. Can you imagine, nagsimula akong maging Bishop of Caloocan, January of 2016. By June of 2016, nagsimula ng tukang. Binago lahat ng pastoral priorities namin bilang isang diocese. And just listening to the stories, and I have very clear recollection of the time that we protected the witnesses to the killing of Kian de los Santos. By the way, kung gusto niyo dumalaw sa Diocese of Caloocan, sa tapat ng simbahan, meron isang memorial stone doon in memory ng mga pinaslang. Dahil kinonekta ko kay San Roque, pinatay si Kian de los Santos sa araw ng pista ng aming patron saint ng buong Diocese of Caloocan, San Roque. That was August 16. And ngayon, ang mga malakas ang loob na nanindigan para sumaksi at magkwento ay mga bata. They were being dissuaded by their parents dahil takot na takot ang parents. But my gosh, itong mga bata, ang lalakas ng loob. Ang tawag kay Kian ay Kuya. Eh mga papa, nakita naman po talaga namin ginawa kay Kuya. Pinatay po siya talaga, may gano'n, no? So, can you imagine parang mga bata from the mouth of babes, from the mouth of children, no? Na hindi pa nababahiran ng ng takot at ng mga pangamba o bias. You know? So that became an inspiration for me. So for me, the bigger scandal is if the church not have anything to do with this. Then you will lose every respect for the church in terms of moral and spiritual leadership. If we don't care about murder, about the violence that's being perpetrated in our society. We have to promote peace in our society. I am echoing the voice of peace of hope.
Siguro, before, just a quick context to that. I mean, we have to keep in mind that during the documentation of the drug war, there are at least four sectors who are key to all of this. One, of course, the media. Second, the NGOs, the human rights defenders. Third, the families of the victims. And then the church. I mean, in all my years documenting the drug war from 2016, the church was always there. Iba-ibang denomination. Father Danny's program in Payatas was the first one na napitan namin. A lot of you here know about that. So, and hindi lang ito sa Manila, even across the Philippines, the church, the parishes, they've always been kind of kung wala ang simbahan, may hirapan talaga. So, kaya tayo umabot sa Yes, Mark.
Mark Solidos po ng Vegas News. Ferdinand, magandang araw po. Ferdinand, malapit na rin yung plenary ng CBCP. Are we going to ask the plenary for support dito sa commission? We know na ngayon meron na rin plano na hingin sa CBCP yung pastoral statement para doon sa ikasampung anibersaryo ng pagsisimula ng Choir of Representation. Pero particularly po sa commission, ibahin po ba tayo na inabot ito para sa isang mas formal na support from the bishops?
Salamat. Alam naman ninyo na hindi na ako presidente ng Catholic Bishops Conference of the World. So I'm now serving as Vice President for the Federation of Asian Bishops Conferences. But I am still a member of the conference. Ang namumuno sa CBCP ngayon si Archbishop Gilbert Garcera, Archbishop of Lipa. And I was, in a conversation a while ago with Father Tito Calua of Caritas, that he has brought this already to the attention of the Permanent Council of the CBCP. So, hindi man ako ang nagdala sa attention, it is already there on the table of the Permanent Council of the CBCP. So I wouldn't be surprised that they will pick it up again into narrative federalism. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. For the follow-up question, para kay Father Daniel, sorry po, church meet kasi. So, Father, yung academy, lalo na yung Catholic education, paano natin sila matatapos mobilize para dito sa tutunan?
I think Truth Commission could be helpful in the direction of education, not only Catholic education, but education in general. Because if the whole society is silent on what happened in the 10 years past, what direction, moral direction can we give to education? Ang nais kong sabihin, kung ano mang meron katotohanan na ma-derive namin sa Truth Commission, dapat ito ay ibabahagi din hindi lamang sa mga police, sa mga government agencies, kundi pati sa Catholic Education Association of the Philippines, PACO, Philippine Association of Catholics and Universities, so that it would inform and it would help create educational initiatives on their part. Iniisip ko, nung time noong Holocaust, Germany has been so forward and upward to tell their younger generations on what happened in the Holocaust. if there is no such narrative, if we could not convert the narrative of Adik, Nataban, etc., there will be always fake news all over the place in the formation of the minds of our young people. Kaya mahalaga ito. Kung anuman katotohanan meron dito, dapat ito ay pupunta sa mga educational institutions.
Before I call on Zen, just like to add, just to refer back to the question made about the role of the church of all of this. I mean, you all know Father Flavi, Villanueva. I mean, if there's one guy, one priest who's kind of symbolized how the church is involved in all of this, it's him. I mean, with all due respect to the Cardinal Alianos. I mean, the kind of work that Father Flavi does in Caloocan is just something. So, he is kind of the epitome of what the church can do for this sort of, for this kind of thing. Zen?
Zen Hernandez, ABS-CBN. So, of course, you all know that documentation had been the biggest hurdle in this situation, which is why there were a lot of cases. And if you're going to be successful in your mission, that would be a huge step forward. But we already have a case in the ICC, and whatever it is that you will uncover in the course of your work may be significant to that case. So I'm asking Judge Pangalanan, is it possible for your findings to contribute to the ICC case? And in case po, because yung ICC is looking for additional witnesses. If in case you encounter any of those people that you need, how are you also providing security for them? Because there's a reason why the ICC keeps them in detention, why they want witnesses, etc.
Okay, thank you for that question. At the outset, I'm glad you pointed out, the ICC has its ongoing proceedings that have focused on 3 sets of crimes, right? That is in the confirmed charges. The mayoral period, the presidential period, and the higher profile charges. That is the focus of the ICC. The focus of the Truth Commission is much wider. We are not limited to the charges there because those charges pertain to the crimes attributed to the specific accused. That is not our focus. Now, to the extent that we uncover truths which are relevant to their work, and if they find it relevant, of course they're free to use that information, whether as direct incriminating evidence or maybe as background information. But that is the domain of the prosecutor of the ICC, completely, obviously beyond our control. But in the course of our receiving of witnesses, if there is information that they might find useful in our reports, of course they are free to use it. But again, I just want to make clear that this is a Truth Commission, not a prosecutorial body, and therefore completely separate from the ICC proceeding. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Okay, the fact is many of the victims and witnesses have been given care and sanctuary by the Catholic Church. So it's been ongoing. So it's not a plan, it's not a projection. They have received that protection over the years, and the church will continue to give that protection and sanctuary for them. Of course, I acknowledge if they are stepping forward, if we make a public testimony, there will be additional, there will be new risks, but as I and my commissioners have confronted from the beginning, there are really risks in this, in this mission, and the best we can do actually is to take precautions. But beyond that, for me, I just want to emphasize the care and sanctuary has been given. They have been joining as work so far, and we hope to continue.
And just to add to the security stuff, I mean, rest assured that anybody who's going to come forward to the commission to testify or share their stories, we have security protocols in place. And we will not put the safety and the lives of these survivors in danger. We will make sure that they are protected. That's going to happen. I mean, we can't give you any more details other than that, but yeah, rest assured. And just to go back to the first part of your question on the documentation, and perhaps Dr. Fukil can chime in on this one. One of the challenges that we're facing here is that nobody really knows exactly how many have died. I mean, we have different figures. We say 30,000. The UN says 18,000, the government says 6,000, 7,000. So, isa yan sa mga challenge na haharapin ng commission. And we are not going to promise you that at the end of the commission's term, we will be able to say exactly how many have died. But that's going to be something that we will deal with. Dr. Fukil?
Kasi yung sa malaking frustration, asan ang documentation na everything, how it happened, where it happened, examination of the body, the statements of the witnesses, and so on. And kaya even the simple count of witness, we cannot even produce. If this were a place with a medical examiner office, lahat ng mamamatay, violent, automatic yan. Hindi ko nandun. Ang dami ko na yung kaso nila. But this is the Philippines. I have only seen a handful, about 20 autopsies, and to date, 138 cases from father coagulation, and then another 8 from other people. So, ang konti-konti niyan. And that had been my fear before, and I have voiced it out. If anything happens to me, will be stopped. Meaning the work I'm doing. Kung kami mo binibigyan, please don't let it stop. Tapos, ano mangyayari sa aking documentation? Can I not turn it over somewhere? And this is one way for it to be perpetuated. I agree. Ako lang yan, konti-konti. Remember, many of them dead. Actually, kulot na process ng police. So that means somehow meron din silang documentation. Merong doktor daw na kunin mo ng death certificate. Ano meron? Yung iba, na-sure ko, nakikita ko, may signs na autopsy. Asa na autopsy report? Hinihingi mo yan. Even the simple death certificate is very, very frustrating. Ang mag-provide sa amin, like yung mga cases ng Falun Family, yung family, ang meron lang sila first page. Ang weird ng death certificate sa Pilipinas, the second page. So itong doktor, lalagay niya sa harap, either blanco or sasabihin niya, for autopsy. Tapos clip kong ganyan, holding my breath. Wala akong second page. Ang habol sana, I don't know. I hope the commission can help me out here. Like, can we go to PSA? Isa-isahin natin itong mga kumakulong na death certificates ito. Makuha man lang natin yung both pages. But I tell you, even that is not very helpful. Kasi in the Philippines, hindi naman forensic pathologist yung tumitingin. Nasabihin lang nila, gunshot wounds to the head, gunshot wounds to the throat. It's not enough. I'm still waiting for, nag-request ako, nasa ng mga autopsy reports niya. And I'm sure you remember, I have seen some cases where pinawag ko sila autopsy rin. Kasi kunwari na, iniwan. Hindi na sinili. Kung makakuha ka mo ng autopsy report, it's just one page. Tapos may konting sa likod. So, very, very frustrating. So, kaya sabi ko, baka sakaling with this commission, maayos natin ma-access yung kailangan. Tapos isa pa, tandaan nyo, ang meron lang tayo na records ay yung merong pamilya. In-identify, cleaning yung body. Ilan ang pinatay na walang nag-claim, unidentified, and that's it. I'm also looking at the opportunity to look for them kasi I bet itong ating mga sementeryo ay meron mga lugar na tinapon lang doon ito nga ang identify. Can we not please exhume? Can we not raise the standards of forensic science? And right now, we are trying to push this in Manila. Remove it. National Forensic Institute, Philippine National Forensic Authority, removes. This is a good time for this. And then we have friends abroad helping us. Right, so I'm crossing my fingers that something good really will come out of this in terms of, buying my work for science.
Yeah, Jim.
Sir, good morning to anybody in the commission. Sir, closure and healings are obviously extremely very important for the families and the victims. But I think a central part of those objectives is effective justice, real justice and accountability. So my question is, will you design this fact-finding and documentation in such a way that this material recordings can be potentially used for the possible prosecution of law enforcers who, I think, thousands of walking assassins, if you may call it that, who were involved directly in these killings, the questionable killings? And is that a key objective of the commission?
Well, short answer, no. The goal is, okay, let me approach it differently. When you speak of justice as accountability, well, of course it is. But accountability meaning prosecuting the guilty, of course, is beyond the powers of a civil society initiative. We don't have prosecutorial power. We will have to rely upon the Philippine government for that, and of course, international entities like the ICC. But you see, you have to also understand that justice has many aspects. And accountability, prosecution, that is one that is given by other entities. But for the Truth Commission, we will deal with the other aspects of justice. That is of enabling the victims and witnesses to step forward to speak their truth, having that truth recognized by the nation, by the public, sharing the truth with the responsible government offices, and which is where the accountability mechanism also kick in. So I think, Jim, we have to I think we have to realize that the pursuit of justice is not limited just to the punishment of the accused. That is a part of it. It is indispensably a part of it, but it's not limited.
I quickly add to that, Jim.
Okay.
I mean, the whole point here, friends, is that it is my understanding that the Commission will make it extremely difficult for the Philippine government to ignore all of this. It's going to be, the onus is going to be on them to act on whatever findings we have. We may recommend, and in our mission statement, we don't have subpoena powers. We cannot compel people to attend our hearings. But to be honest, the government can ignore this at their own peril. And it's not in the interest of justice to do that. So again, with all the expertise that you have here, Dr. Fortune, Dr. Fuertes, and Judge, we will make it really, really difficult for the government to ignore what's happening. Already, as it is, mahirap na itanggi. But this will add, I would say, cachet to that.
I think my question was for, is the commission open for any government agencies, DOJ, the PNP, to use the materials that you will produce for possible prosecution of whoever?
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of those possibilities that we're very open to. I mean, you know, the end here is justice. So if this compels the DOJ, you know, the CHR, the NACOLCOM, and we have this in the press release, to use our documentation for their own needs to prosecute, then you know, we're happy na gagawin nila.
My last question for Judge Pangalanan. Sir, it took an ICC to arrest and prosecute the Philippine president. I think that's a clear judgment on our judicial system. So my question is, what is your assessment of our judicial system now? Can it handle, imperfect as it is, you know, potentially thousands of, you know, prosecutorial cases of law enforcers? Because these law enforcers who actually pulled the trigger are still around. They're still in positions of power. They're still, you know, everywhere in the country. And I know that the commission wants prosecution where it is needed. So can our judicial system now handle these potentially massive cases? Because you came from the ICC, you have a very good perspective.
Well, okay, Jim. Have to be careful here. When we speak of the justice system, we're speaking of the entire, organization of government dealing with the prosecution of crimes. So it's not just the courts. It will be with the prosecutorial arm, which is the executive branch. It deals with the various investigative arms. And in fact, as Dr. Apollo mentioned earlier, in fact, it is the witnesses in the investigative stage that is usually the starting point of the problem. So, dealing with the entire justice system, I think the facts are staring us in the face. Thus far, as my colleagues have stated, kaya nga kailangan ng Truth Commission, we don't even have an authoritative list of how many of the murders have been investigated, prosecuted, and how many trials have been concluded. Thus far, Jim, our sure record, are just 5 cases, and we are sure about them because these 5 cases, which involve, by the way, 7 victims, are those under the care of the Catholic Church. So we can confirm exactly what happened to the cases because these are the victims' families, and the witnesses that we get directly through the church. So if the question is, we have all sorts of figures from NGOs, from journalistic reports. If you look at the ICC record, they go by a ballpark figure of 20 to 30,000. That is what is reflected in the documents report that we trial chamber. But if you have figures like in the thousands, and all you have are 5 cases, quite obviously that the justice system has not responded adequately to the crisis.
Thank you so much. Sir, 5 convictions, you were saying?
5 cases, yes. Yes, okay. Because even for the 5 convictions, I don't think all of them were for murder. I think in one case, it was for homicide. The